Hello everyone and welcome to Day 3 SIGGRAPH here at the Maxon booth. We are showcasing amazing artists from around the world and how they use Maxon 1 in their workflow. I am very honored for you guys are really in for a treat, first of all. I'm really honored to have one of my favorite artists. I know I have so many favorite artists, but one of my favorite artists, Gryun Kim. Big round of applause.
Thank you. Hello, this is Gryun Kim. And it's a pleasure and honor to be here among these incredible artists. So to be honest, it feels like a dream right now, because when I was in Korea, I used to dream about presenting at Maxon in English. So I can't believe this is my second time presenting at Maxon booth. So it seems like dreams has come true. So before we jump into the presentation, I would like to introduce myself by showcasing my latest showreel. So let's play showreel first. Thank you. I work on the many title sequences at Elastic and continues to make my personal project. I also like to share my knowledge by making tutorials. So most recently, I have made online class with Uson Kang. Uson Kang is here right now. And Taewoon Park called WAI at Colosso, which is sci-fi short film. And we share all the process of making sci-fi short film from scratch. So now it only has a Korean version, but English subtitle version will be released at the end of this year. So today I would like to discuss one of my personal projects called ShinRamyun, which is most popular ramen in Korea, and I just created it in CG with the SIGGRAPH. Okay. Art is a lie that makes us realize truth, at least the truth that given us to understand, by Pablo Picasso. So my fundamental art combines realism and imagination. So just Picasso said, creating realistic artwork leads to a deeper observation of ordinary objects around us. So through this process, we can get new ideas that we never thought of before. In part 1, I would like to discuss how to make ramen noodle and package. So one day, a SNAP-food user in Korea asked this question, how to make noodle in SNAP-food? So, as we all know, SNAP-food users are really kind, and they even share the example scene file to answer the question. So I came up with a good idea and tested, and eventually I answered this question by sharing my scene file. Then I start thinking about creating ramen package after that. So, and eventually I developed the scene, and this is the video I created. So in part one, we are going to talk about noodle and package. I prepare 3 steps. First is noodle, second is package and tiering. So at the first step, I would like to talk about finding best solution. So whenever I approach a project, I always consider what is the best solution would be. And to me, the best solution means the most effective way to reach the goal quickly and effectively. And I will show you my solution later. And in second step, I'm going to share how to make the package by using Marvelous Designer. So there are 2 things I made from Marvelous Designer, but we might need to skip the seasoning package, or we do more focus on just package. And then at the end, we are going to talk about tiering the package with some detail. So let's move on to the sim file. And here's, I prepared some very simple sim file, just plain object moving forward. So my idea is generate spline based on these points of plane. So we are going to make the tracer. I like to use command window by Shift-C key, then type the tracer. Then it automatically calculate and record every single frame and make it spline. So I'm going to distort this plane object. So click plane object and generate displacer. Probably need some noise. Just try to make it bigger. And also animate it. But it's animating, but it doesn't really cool on spline because we need to change the direction. So default setting of the tracer, the displacer is vertex normal direction. We need to change it to planar. So plus X, so now we can see wavy shape of spline. So, but I'm going to also make the Y direction too, just by duplicate it and change it to Y plus, make some variation, and just probably smaller noise movements. And we can also add a Z plus direction. Probably this one should be smaller noise. Yeah, that's it. Once you create this kind of wavy spline, we are going to generate, make it mesh by creating the swim nerves. I like to just use a type here and inside, probably 2 centimeter thickness. And add more sides, and click 2 of them and put it down the swim nerves. Then we can generate this noodle very quickly. So now we move on to the package. We are going to make it as a collider, but now it has a lot of geos, so we need to make it simple. So I'm going to use a volume builder and mesher. So make it more simpler, and let's compare to original one. The collider object should be thicker or bigger than noodles to avoid intersection of the package and noodle. So just by increase the vertex range, we can make it thicker. Then just editable and then export it to OBJ or FBX, whatever. Then move to the Marvelous Designer. We can import OBJ here. So in the reason I choose Marvelous Designer because we can make the close simulation based on 2D pattern, so it's easier to make the texture too. So and get the UV very simply. So I'm going to generate just a rectangle pattern here, so bigger than the collider object, something like this, and click it. We can rotate it. But there's a two side. The darker surface means inverted normal. So we need to make sure to see the brighter surface. And then I just copy and paste it and put it down below. And we might need the head and tail. I don't know what should I call. And I just call the head and tail. So move it a little bit next and copy paste. And put it up, probably make it shorter. And then click it, put it here, and copy, paste it, put it here. We can saw the segment by using segment sawing tool. Click the segment sawing tool, and click first segment and next one. So we can see the guideline. It's gonna be saw, something like that. Click, click, and click, click. Okay. We also need to connect head and tail. So in order to simulate it, you just press spacebar or just click this button. Just play spacebar. But there's something wrong because the default setting of the Marvelous Design has a ground. So we need to get rid of the ground simulation. Go to Preferences and Simulation Properties. And there's a ground tab, open it, and uncheck the collision. And also, I like to recommend you to use GPU simulation because it's way faster. I'm going to get rid of gravity and click this. Oh, I need to put it down a little bit. And click this geo and move it a little bit. No. Move it a little bit down again. And let's see play. Now, here we go. So we don't like the triangle shape of the polygon, so we are going to make it rectangle shape. So click everything and go below. Just check remesh on so we can get the rectangle shape of the polygon. So we can also increase the polygon distance by changing the polygon distance so that we can get more amount of the polygons here. So it might take a little bit of time. And as you can see, the bottom package is darker than the upper side. I think it's because it is flipped normal. Just right click on here and click flip normal. It might take a little bit of time. And now let's simulate it again. And let's see. Yeah, it looks like package, but it's 2 feet. So we can just keep the 2D pattern, but make it bigger in 3D view by just changing shrink option. So increase the option, something like this. So we can get this kind of, make it bigger. And also we can add -1 pressure. So make some, detail. So you can also add more detail. Just hold W key and then just grab, and it generates pin. So you can add more detail on this package, something like this. So I like this kind of detail, something like this. Yeah. Now it's time to move on to the UV map. So click the right top corner. There's a simulation tab, and click it. Change mode to UV editor. So as you can see, there's one grid, means a UV map. So I'm going to bring this object here and scale it up a little bit more. And click the fabric. So you can load your texture image here. So I'm going to load one of the texture. And now we need to arrange the position of the package. So click the everything and just, okay. Ooh. So click everything and move it to find the proper position. And you can also scale the package texture here. And something like this. Click this one and move it a little bit up to find here. So this one, the head too. Yeah, that's it. Once you finish the package, just export it to OBJ or FX, whatever, and then import it on the snap body. So I'm going to move on to the next step. Now it's time to tier this package. So I already built a scene with this kind of package, and inside the package I put the noodle and seasoning package too. So we need to add collider on this simplified geo for noodles and the floor. So right click on this object and go to simulation and add collider. And also we need to add closed simulation on this package. So go to simulation and add close. So we also need some geometry to grab this corner of the package and tier it. So I'm going to make a sphere object and move it here and scale a little bit down. And I'm going to add a keyframe and go to 30 frame, add keyframe here, and go to 90 frame and add keyframe here again. So it's going to be like pulling back, something like that. And also we need to change some default simulate setting. Go to the mode and project and go to simulation. And I like to get rid of the gravity. Also I like to reduce the time scale to get more accurate simulation. So let's add collider tag on this sphere object too. So collider and hit play. If something happened, but we need to check tier option on this package object. So go to close tag on the package object and check close tiering. Then play again. It's working something, but we need to add some area. We need to select some of the polygon we want to tier. So change the brush mode, and I just uncheck visible only so that we can select the bottom of the package too. So, and go to select and set vertex weight 100 and hit OK. The yellow vertex map is gonna be the tier area. So go to the close tag and use this vertex map on this tier past map option. Then let's play. Okay. It's working, but it's not that good because we need to change this collider side option front to back so that we can grab inside of this sphere. So click it and tier it. Now there we go. We can tier the package. Something like this. And it's not just about stopping here. So we should imagine what happened when we actually tear open the ramen package. So when tearing the ramen package, there might be an experience where the noodles crumbs pops out. So we can add that kind of detail to enhance the realism. So I'm going to open the scene file, and I'm going to select some of the noodles. Go to top view mode and close up. And change rectangle selection and click some part of the noodle and go back and right click and split. So this piece of the noodle is gonna be the crumbs. So in order to get individual pieces, I'm going to use flexure. Just type the flexure with the Shift C key and Alt click. And go to object and change mode to try to explode the segments and make it editable so you can get individual pieces here right now. So we might need some of them, and we need to get rid of other things and select the piece of the noodle. Then we are going to simulate it and go to just click the dynamic place. I love this feature. And the one thing I recommend, you need to change the scale to smaller. The default setting was 1 meter, but I just changed smaller. So, and check the visualize the collider. So you can see the blue and red. Blue means rigid body simulation, and red means is collider. So when you move this ramen noodle, now it's simulated. So uncheck the visualize collider. So make it more faster. You can scatter this and hold the shift key and click it so you can drop it. You can just design any kind of pop out simulation. By just adding this kind of detail, it makes more realism, right? So now it's time to go part 2. In part 2, I'd like to share the process of boiling ramyun. So after creating the ramyun package, noodle, I naturally thought it would be more interesting to showcase the artwork of boiling ramyun in the pot. As a result, I successfully simulate the boiling ramyun and create this short video. Let's see the video first. Yeah, sorry for making you feel hungry. So, in part 2, I also divide 3 steps. First is pot, second is soup and the decoration, and third part is bubble. So in part 1, I'm going to talk about the making a pot, definitely, but I also would like to talk about overcoming the trauma. So when I do the personal project, I set a goal to learn new things, and that I'm afraid. So I used to avoiding modeling parts or unwrap UVs and texturing in Substance Painter as if they were trauma. I decided to take on challenge and ended up not only learning but also overcoming traumas. So I'm gonna show you it later. And I think we don't have not enough time to make showing the whole process of soup and decoration, so I might need to skip some part of this, and I prefer to focus on more this bubble. So I ate a lot of ramen while I'm making this artwork and try to find some interesting pattern of movement. Then I realized there's specific movement when we boil the ramen. And just imagine when you boil the ramen, probably the bubble is starting from the bottom of the pot and it's generating. But because of the contents of the ramen noodle and veggie, it can passing through. So it try to find the way to go through up, and then eventually they find the edge of the pot. And when it arrived, next the bubble is pushed, and that's why it's trying to go center. So I also want to do that kind of simulation in seafood, but it would be very heavy simulation. So I just trick it and make fake simulation. So I'm going to show you later. So starting from pots, let's see the scene file and talk about trauma. And I'm going to skip modeling parts. I do more focus on the unwrap UV. So I watched the amazing tutorial by Motion Punk. On his Patreon page, and he used Rizom UV, which is the name of the UV tool. And I saw the amazing performance, and I also like to introduce the performance here. And I reached out to Rizom UV team, and they decided to support be the sponsorship for my personal project. I'm going to show what it is. And click any object you want to unwrap, and extension. Once you insert Rizom UV, just export Rizom UV. So it automatically open the Rizom UV software and bring your geo into the software. So it also has a 3D view and 2D view. And 2D view stand for UV channel. So you just hit P key or just pack, and then press F key. It's a scale up at the full screen mode, as if the S key in Snap 4D. So I'm going to change the isolate mode. Click it and click one of them, just step by step, and hit I key, stand for isolate. And we can focus on this body of the pot first. So one thing I would like to recommend when you adding cut line in unwrap UV, you just imagine the final output. So my final output image is something, the layout would be something like that. So try to avoid showing the line on your viewport. So rather than cutting this, you just double click it, you can get the loop selection. Rather than cut this here, I try to avoid visible parts. So cut this below, and hit the C key, stand for cut. You can icon here. And also, rather than cutting this line, because eventually we're gonna see the line if we cut this line. So cut the bottom of the pot. We also need to cut every edge of this sphere. So double click cut, double click C. It's really easy. Just click and C, double click C, double click C. See the last parts, double click C. Oh. And we also need to cut this line, and probably inside of the pot we're gonna fill the soup, so we don't care about the cutting line. So when you press the U key, so stand for unfold, if you mouse hover on this bottom of the pot and hit U key, only this object your mouse on is unwrapped. So if you unfold your mouse outside of the pot, so you can unfold everything in your viewport. And once you unfold it, and then press P key or just pack, I prefer to use a shortcut. Now we can get just unwrapped, pretty easy. And select everything and hit G key, stand for group, and hit I key to get out of isolation mode. And now we move on to the handle part and click these two handle, hit I. And we are going to cut one of them and probably double click C, double click C. So it's super easy to cut, something like this, right? And this geo is, the handle is symmetrical modeling, so we don't need to cut the other one same way, because there's a really cool feature called topo copy, so that you can copy this cutting line on the similar object. So click this update similar, so you can see this orange line, cutting line, the same happening on this other line. And then hit U key on forward, or just press this button, and then hit P key, so it's organized. You can definitely change orient vertical and then pack again, so you can get beautiful unwrap. And click everything and grouping again. And lastly, we need to unwrap this small cylinder object. So click one of them, and there's a select similar, so it automatically finds similar object. So you don't need to click everything. And hit O key, I key, so the isolate mode. And we're gonna cut one of them. Probably cutting this line, this one. Yeah, it was my trauma, but now I feel like overcome my trauma. So then once you finish it, just click update similar. It automatically find the similar object and cut the same line, and which is a really cool feature. I don't need to cut every time, so it reduces a lot of working time. So I love that feature. So once you finish, just hit U key and hit P key, the same. I'll pack again, so we can get all unwrapped UVs. Select everything, group, and I key, so that we can see every geo. And there's a overwrap UVs. Now it's time to pack again. So it automatically arranges the UVs based on your grouping. So now, after you finish the unwrap UV, just save. So when you save it, it automatically quick the software and just update UV here. So we can see the UV now. We have UV now. As you can see, we can get the same UV here. So it's time to overcome Substance Painter. So okay, let's open Substance Painter. So back in the day, I prefer to use just Octane shader, just node base. But sometimes, unwrapping UV help me to get more details on texture. So go to new file and select and import the geo we already unwrapped. And I like to use probably 2D resolution and hit OK. Now this part here. So I like to use smart material that the Substance Painter support defaults. And go to smart material and bronze arm. But it looks not that cool. So because we need some baking texture. So go to top of the corner. There's a bread icon. When you click it, we can get some bake texture here. I would like to change the size of the texture, probably 2K, and click the bake. So it automatically generates ambient occlusion map, also curvature map or position data. So when you go to painting, now here we go. We can get more interesting texture. So whenever I use smart material, it generates several layers. I would like to turn off everything except the first one and see one by one. And click this fill layer, and when you change it, you can see the texture is repeat, and to try to find the best scale. And click this finish love. I don't know what it is, but just play with just gauge. So I'm going to increase intensity. Let's see. There's a very interesting number map, and you can change the grunge amount, and also change the scale, make it dirtier. And when you turn on this dirt map, so I see. I love this kind of detail. So when I studied new software, I used to have it watch all the tutorial on the internet. And then I realized I try to find the pattern of the tutorial, and most of people use the same pipeline. Most people like to use a fill layer and adding mask. So fill layer basically apply all the effect everywhere, but by adding the mask, it just selects some of parts. So that's why it has two different thumbnail. One is for fill layer, the other one is mask layer. So when you click the mask layer, the other layers pops up, and then you just click it. You don't worry about there are so many gauge. It's gonna make your scene more interesting. There's a global option. When you change the global balance, you can easily change the amount of the dessert. Okay. Also, there's two texture 1 and 2. When you move it, there's something happen. I see. We need to change this value. Or you can also open the ambient occlusion tab and change the balance so that you can adjust the amount of the mask here. So I'm going to open next layer. Next one. So, yeah, we can see the scratch here. So let's click this mask and go to mask editor. When you change it, I see. There's a scratch. I love that, but the texture size is a little bit bigger than I thought. So when you change the value of the texture 1, I see this one is for the scratch. So open the texture tab. You can change the scale like this. Pretty easy, right? Then I don't know what is texture 2. It's like bumpy things. I think you can definitely change the scale or value here. So I'm going to open next layer. It's like etch damage. It's hard to see. So in order to see clear, hold Alt key and click the mask thumbnail so that you can see the area, the mask area. So and then click the edit mask editor, and you can increase the global balance so that, I like that kind of mask on this handle, something like this. And go back to material. So at the end, it sharpens everything. It looks cool. But I also want to add more detail. So by adding new layer, And when you brush it, you can paint some color. But if you go down below and uncheck everything except height map and change the value from 0 to -1, when you paint it, you can push the geo. So and go to brush asset. There's so much bunch of different type of the brush. I'm going to pick cement and make it dirtier. So honestly, in Korea, most of Korean has this pot, and this pot is for boiling ramen or the kimchi soup. So we like to make it dirtier or just make it, just damage it. So sometimes some people just throw away to make it more professional or more delicious. So if you like a master of the ramen, so just, we can do the same way here. Then it's too creepy, so I'm going to blur it out. So click the blur option, probably change the scale. When you brush, you can make it blurry here. So once you finish painting and just file, export texture. And one thing I would like to mention is I like to use different assets. Probably PBR metallic roughness is good for the Octane or Redshift. Also there is a Redshift menu. You can select and export, you can get the texture. So now we move on to soup parts. I think because of the limited time, I need to speed up right now. So in order to generate soup, I'm going to use this pot and select inner of the pot and split this geo. And probably we should change the name, put it up. And I'm going to close the hole, polygon hole, click it. So you can read up the texture. So that because we are going to use top surface of this soup to generate bubble, but it doesn't have a regular polygon. So in order to do that, I'm going to use remesher. So remesh is my one of favorite feature. So you don't need to remodeling and retopo. So it automatically generate polygon geo. So let's see. Yeah, let's see. We can get very regular, beautiful shape of the polygon. You can definitely increase the amount of the polygon, just editable. And it's invert. We need to reverse normal. Right click, reverse normal. And probably we need top surface of this by rectangle shape and UP. So now we have the top surface of this soup, and it's time to add bubble. So you can see there's a top surface. I just split it, and I'm going to get just edge of this surface. Right click, split, and I'm going to use it as a source of the to select the edge of the soup. So I'm going to rename it edge and hide it. We are going to use this surface, and I'm going to use vertex map and hit. So I'm going to check use field, so you can import any geo. So we are going to drag this edge object. So click it. You can change the amount of the radius. So I'm going to type this amount in. We are going to animate this selection going in center. So as I mentioned before. So we need formula. There's two types of the formula, but make sure the grayscale formula is calculating effects. So you can see this vertex normal is moving center. So you can avoid this kind of moments. I'm going to change blending mode to subtract. But at the beginning, I didn't know what blending mode I should use, but I just test just one by one, and I realized, oh, this looks cool. And in formula layer, we can speed up by changing 36 degree something, I guess. Just multiply 3. So we can get more circular shape. So we can also duplicate this edge and change the radius or change the mode to blending mode to add. So we can get more repeats, circular animation. So now it's too circular shape. I'm going to distort it by adding shader field and move shader field below the formula and add noise. You can see this interesting animation happening. I'm going to scale it up a little bit. And I'm going to change the blending mode max to probably overlay. So make it, distort our circular shape of the pattern. So we can also definitely duplicate. It's kind of very freedom to changing the value and adding different type of the noise. So I'm going to change over blending mode overlay to subtract, or we can definitely change the shape of the noise, something like that, scale it up, or you can, just there's no limitation, and probably animate it. So and we can change the opacity here. So we are going to generate bubble and Shift C and cloner and generate sphere and scale down, look like bubble. And change mode grid to object, and we are going to use this object and change the instance mode to render instance. It makes the scene faster. Probably increase the count 3,000 and make it smaller. So in order to use our vertex map, I'm going to add plane effector and change rather than position. I'm going to change the scale -1 and go to field tab. We are going to drag this vertex map here, so we can see the movement right now, but it should be inverted. So I'm going to invert this effect so we can see this bubble. And then I'm going to randomize probably the scale a little bit. Randomize scale, or we can also add push-up parts. I love this feature. And we try to reduce the amount radius. And it's too slow, so try to reduce iteration. That's it. So, and I can definitely change the value more. 400 can get more sphere shape. It is not exact simulation, but you can see, yeah, it's pretty similar. Bubble is just bubble, but make it feel more realistic. So, okay, conclusion. Visualizing imagination is making dreams a reality. So when I visualize my imagination using Cinema 4D, it gave me new opportunities, brought me more friends, and helped me overcome my traumas. So before starting this project, I couldn't imagine how it would be benefit me. But once I visualize what I imagine, these amazing things start to happen. So for this presentation, many companies helped me a lot. Definitely Maxon helped me a lot, entire things. And also support the render farm. And Rizom UV also support the license. And Marvelous Design also support my license. And I'm thinking to open new Patreon and try to share small tips through my upcoming Patreon. I think it will take a month. And if we are interested in my next journey, just follow my Instagram. I'm going to update my news here. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, listening to my presentation.
Awesome. Amazing job, as always. I love how you use so many of the different effectors, fields, and everything else in a very just direct way, but the results are phenomenal. Even the cloth tears is just like, oh yeah, that's how you use cloth.
Yeah.
But just making sure that the collision is on the back to make the pull. That's great. So we do have a couple moments for questions. I mean, there was a lot of stuff covered here, but we do have a moment for questions. Questions for Gryun?
Yeah, I'm gonna be behind scene for
so you're gonna
30 minutes. If you guys have any question, I'm gonna be there, demo station.
Yeah, right down at Dell, we have a laptop. He'll be all set up and he'll be able to demo. So if you're a little bit shy or you have a really complex question, that's totally fine. He'll be able to talk with you and go through it. But if not, stay tuned. We're gonna have our next presenter up here at 11:30. So stay tuned. We'll see you next. Hang tight, Internet.